The Narco-Sobrinos Affair, inside the drug scandal that reached the Venezuelan presidency. Intro. Imagine a drug trafficking conspiracy so bold it used presidential security, private jets, and nearly a metric ton of cocaine. Imagine the key operatives aren't cartel leaders or rogue military officers, but the nephews of a first lady. This is the story of the Narco-Sobrinos Affair, a case that exposed the darker side of Venezuelan politics and raised global questions about the true nature of Nicolas Maduro's regime. Today we break it all down. Section 1. Who is Nicolas Maduro? Nicolas Maduro's rise to the presidency of Venezuela is a political saga on its own. A former bus driver, a union organizer, a loyal party member who climbed steadily through the ranks, foreign minister, vice president, and ultimately the political heir to the late Hugo Chavez. In 2013, following Chavez's death, Maduro assumed the presidency. His administration soon became defined by economic collapse, political turmoil, and international accusations of corruption and authoritarianism. But beneath the public speeches and state propaganda, a darker narrative emerged, one involving allegations that elements within the Venezuelan state were connected to narcotics trafficking networks, a narrative that would explode into public view in 2015. Section 2. The Narco-Sobrinos Conspiracy. The scandal begins with two men, Efrain Antonio Campo Flores and Frankie Francisco Flores de Freitas. They were more than relatives of the First Lady, Cilia Flores. They were part of the inner family circle surrounding Maduro. They had access, privilege, and proximity to power. According to U.S. prosecutors, the two cousins began plotting in mid-2015 to move large quantities of cocaine into the United States. Not small shipments, not experimental deals, but more than 800 kilograms, nearly a metric ton. Their plan relied on political influence, private aircraft, and access to state-controlled infrastructure. They intended to use Simón Bolívar International Airport in Maiquetía, an airport under heavy control of the Venezuelan government, as the departure point for their cocaine flights. They met with supposed cartel traffickers, discussed routes, negotiated quantities, and even displayed sample bricks of product. Some of these meetings were secretly recorded by DEA informants, and most shockingly, prosecutors alleged that part of the proceeds from the drug sales would be used to fund political campaigns linked to the First Lady in the 2015 Venezuelan National Assembly elections. This was not just trafficking. This was trafficking with political purpose, trafficking designed to reinforce power inside the Venezuelan state. Section 3. The arrest. In November 2015, their plan collapsed. The cousins traveled to Haiti, expecting to finalize a major deal with cartel contacts. But the men they met were not cartel operatives. They were DEA assets. And within hours, Haitian authorities placed the cousins into custody. They were boarded onto a DEA aircraft and flown directly to New York City. In the United States, they would face federal charges of conspiring to import cocaine into the country. The drama of their arrest sent shockwaves through Venezuela. State media attempted to minimize the story, but internationally, the narrative was clear. Two members of the president's extended family had been caught red-handed in a massive drug trafficking conspiracy. Section 4. The trial in New York. The trial began in 2016. Federal prosecutors presented recordings, photographs, text messages, and testimony. Jurors heard the cousins brag about political connections. They heard them claim they had complete control of airport security. They heard them describe how the cocaine shipments would fly from Venezuela to Honduras, and from there enter the U.S. On November 18, 2016, after deliberation, the jury found both men guilty. Guilty of conspiring to import cocaine into the United States. Guilty of attempting to use political power for criminal enterprise. Guilty beyond any reasonable doubt. A year later, in December 2017, they were each sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. Prosecutors called the plot a massive drug distribution conspiracy. It was one of the most significant narco-political convictions in modern Venezuelan history. Section 5. Political fallout. The scandal was explosive. Critics around the world argued that the case confirmed what many had long suspected, that elements within the Venezuelan state had become intertwined with narcotics trafficking. For Maduro's government, the optics were disastrous. Opposition leaders claimed the arrest exposed a system of corruption and criminal control. International observers warned that Venezuela was heading toward becoming a full-scale narco-state. The United States expanded sanctions, citing the Narco-Sobrinos case as evidence of deep criminal infiltration into the Venezuelan government, this wasn't just about two reckless family members anymore. It became a geopolitical issue, a symbol of state decay, a warning of what happens when political power and organized crime merge. Section 6, the prisoner swap. But the story didn't end in a federal prison. In October 2022, after 7 years behind bars, the two cousins were released as part of a prisoner exchange between the United States and Venezuela. Their return to Caracas was celebrated by Maduro's government as a diplomatic victory. State television portrayed them not as convicted traffickers, but as victims of political persecution. For critics, the swap was proof that political connections still protected the powerful. For families affected by drug violence in the United States, it raised painful questions about justice. Had accountability been traded away? Had political convenience outweighed the severity of the crime? The debate continues. Section 7, Beyond the Cousins, a larger pattern. The Narco-Sobrinos Affair is only one chapter in a much broader story. For years, investigative journalists, defectors, and international agencies have accused senior Venezuelan officials of involvement in drug trafficking, military leaders, intelligence officers, political elites. The term cartel of the suns refers to alleged trafficking networks within the Venezuelan military, named after the sun insignias worn by generals. These allegations paint a picture of a government where portions of the state apparatus function like a cartel. While not every claim can be proven, the Narco-Sobrinos case offers a rare, verifiable look inside these dynamics. Family members of the First Lady, recorded drug negotiation, plans to use state-controlled airports, intentions to fund political power through narcotic sales. It is one of the clearest public examples of how illicit networks and political institutions can become entangled. Section 8, Conclusion. The Narco-Sobrinos Affair is more than a courtroom drama, more than a political embarrassment, more than a drug sting gone wrong. It is a window into the intersection of power, corruption, and organized crime, a case that reveals how narco-trafficking can seep into government structures, a case that raises uncomfortable questions about the future of governance in Venezuela, and a case that reminds us that when political ambition and criminal opportunity collide, nations can be destabilized, economies can collapse, and entire populations can suffer. As we examine this story, we must ask ourselves, how do we hold the powerful accountable? How do we protect institutions from corruption? And what happens when the boundary between government and criminal enterprise disappears? Thank you for listening to this episode of Breaking Down the Cartels. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and stay curious.